Do you have enough seats there? Okay, as the next panel is setting up, let me just briefly introduce as a host this next panel, because it has its own moderator. We are really very pleased and proud to have with us today these four individuals who have dedicated time to the advancement of Friendship Ambassadors Foundation and the Youth Assembly with their presence. They're amazing people, and I hope that you can gain from them as you have from the other wonderful panels that we've had here. Akhtar Badshah, who has disappeared. He's gotten so thin in New York. Oh, no, here he is. Has been with Microsoft and Youth Spark leading their philanthropic goals and mission over many years. And the fact that he's listed as the former senior is not really a great title, because Akhtar is always looking forward, has amazing ideas for the future on how to help young people become better philanthropists, and is someone who we're very proud to have with us because he is a great thinker and a game changer in many, many areas. So I thank him for coming all the way from Seattle just to be a part of this program today. And he's going to be moderating a panel and a conversation with three of my friends, Emmanuel, Akisia, and Anna from the OpenJC program. And I don't want to steal any of their thunder, but when we met, we were hoping to perhaps be a fiscal agent that could help them with their financial aspects of the development of their work. But we've really become enamored with each other's organizations, and we've become much more involved in this program than we ever thought before, and we hope to continue that growth, in part with Akhtar's leadership, helping us all make the most of this program. So I just wanted to personally take a moment to thank the four of you for being with us today, and I think we really look forward to what you'll be talking about. Akhtar, the floor is yours.
Patrick, thank you very much. And once again, I mean, you guys should feel extremely proud of yourselves. I mean, the conversations yesterday and today have been just terrific, and just seeing this room full of people from all over the world is fantastic. So give a round of applause to yourselves. The three panelists that were there just before us, Sam, Ravi, and Emily, I mean, they're just doing some amazing work. And I'm really so proud to see where Sam has evolved from where he started as a 19-year-old. I've been following Sam's trajectory for a very long time, and the stories he tells are just fantastic. So Sam, you are a trailblazer for all of the people that are there in the room, so thank you very much. And we now have three trailblazers here with me. They are local, and they are going to talk about their community and how three very concerned individuals are looking to transform their community, and this is something, a lesson that all of us can learn from. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Anna, Emmanuel, and Akisia, who have started this effort to revive their little community, which is Jersey City, which is across the Hoboken River here. So with that, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and get them to tell their little story as to who they are, and talk a little bit about their program, and then maybe we'll have time for a couple of questions from all of you. So with that, Anna, you want to start off?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Lukasiak. I'm one of the founding partners of OpenJC. Those are my other two partners. And my background is technology. I was born in Poland, raised in Poland, hence my accent, but I went to high school in Jersey City. After that, I went to MIT, and I work as a technology person on Wall Street for quite some time. And my most recent interest is to help the community through OpenJC.
Good morning, everyone. My name is... Oh. Good morning. My name is Emmanuel Simon. I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, where it's a lot warmer than it is outside right now. But my background is I did rocket science in undergrad, wanting to be an
Rocket science. Don't miss that, okay? You just let it go. Anna talked about MIT, so these are very, very brilliant people out here.
No pressure. But beyond that, I think as I began to finish school, I really liked the idea of business. So then went on to get an MBA at Harvard, interested in product development and creating cool stuff. Worked in New York City designing websites and apps and digital experiences, the apps you use on your phone and the websites you go to. But now connected with OpenJC and trying to do something very different in helping to shape and make changes in our community.
Akisia?
Good morning. So my story is a little different, but we ended up in the same place. I grew up in a tale of two worlds. What that means is I'm biracial. My biological father is white. My mother is Dominican. I grew up in the very poor area at first. My aunt was married to a doctor, so I got to travel to her house on the weekends, and I got to see the polarized portions of the communities. So from that, I got to see the racism that was going on both sides, the conversations that were going on both sides. That alone just gave me a vision to contribute by the millions at some point in the future to the advancement of human communications and positive human relationships. I didn't know where that was going to go, but I knew I was going to go somewhere. So 2007, I left corporate. I was at Island Def Jam running creative for urban music. I developed brand images for recording artists like Kanye West. Worked with Jay-Z, Music Soul Child, the whole gamut in urban music. And I left that thinking that I was going to have my own company. Then Puffy, which people call him P. Diddy, he called me to run his holding company, which under that was Bad Boy Entertainment and Sean John Clothing. I was the creative director, and then I quit a year later, right? So I decided to raise my son. I was a single parent, raise my son, and launch my own business, which is a branding and advertising agency. Through that, I became more involved in the community of Jersey City, even though I was already from Jersey City. And I began to advocate for education and seeing the issues that were going on. So that just kind of fast-forwarded into parent engagement and building partnerships and trying to bridge the gaps in social economics that were going on in the community. And I ended up meeting Anna through Code for Jersey City, which is a brigade of Code for America. And with that, I decided to bridge my career with my advocacy work. And so that's the summary of my story.
I love these people because they're just so accomplished. And, P. Diddy and Sean John and Howard, he dropped in from rocket science. But what is so fascinating is very accomplished people with superb career trajectory in front of them are able to look at how to invest back into their community. And that's their story, which is what I'd like to share with them.
So we can proceed. So we're going to tell you a bit about our background and a bit about the project we're working on by first setting the context, letting you know what was happening. And kind of out of that, you'll see probably why we decided to move towards this. So essentially, the project is being codenamed right now a Public Safety Alert app. And I'll have Akisia just talk through a bit of the context in the two pictures.
So we have some slides just showing where we began in the conversation in the community. In 2012, a bunch of community advocates just noticed that the politicians weren't really talking about crime the way we were seeing it. They were saying crime is down, but we were seeing crime was up. And we didn't understand what that meant. So in 2012, we got together to create an awareness campaign. Now, me as the branding and marketing person, I said, I could create a presentation, I can create a commercial spot, you know, just basically just use my skills. So essentially what you see on the presentations is what we actually presented. And we ended up getting an NBC, all the news channels to start talking about what was going on in the community from our perspective. One of the residents within this group found out that the prior administration discontinued from applying for a police grant that contributed $1 million to the community. So she went about her getting signatures, and we ended up getting that $1 million for Jersey City. And so from there, everything spiraled. The summer of 2014, the police department recommended 3 of the most active neighborhood associations to partner with us for a pilot program.
So we began looking at the situation with crime that was happening in Jersey City. And in talking to the neighborhoods, this was kind of our way of reaching into the community to understand exactly what was happening. We began asking a number of questions, essentially around how residents are updated. How is the community updated on what's happening here at the community? And what kind of crime did they care about? And kind of a bit behind that, what were the issues? We heard things like, we don't necessarily trust the reports we're hearing from the police department or from the city officials because we felt they were underreporting what was actually happening, especially in the case, as you saw in the pictures, around burglaries and robberies. So we felt there was, a real perception of lack of transparency. And I think that's where we felt was a place that we can make a difference with our project. So just to tell a quick bit, So basically the idea is, how can we affect a change in our community where we live around crime? And how can we use technology to do that? If you saw in the beginning, our mission is to empower our residents to change the quality of life where they live using technology-driven solutions. And for us, that simply means, what can we do with the technology or the data, as we'll call it, to make that information more accessible? So the basic idea, everyone understands, 911 when you call in to report an incident, or when you go to the police station, they keep that information. And that information can be public. So the idea is, how can we take that publicly available information and look at it for trends of, spikes? Are there more bike thefts or more burglaries happening in a particular neighborhood? And based on those trends, notify the residents in the area so that they know. So for any instance, around the summer, bike thefts typically increase. If that's a situation we see happening more in this place, we would let residents know, hey, in the last 3 to 5 days, we've been seeing more bike thefts happening here. So therefore, we recommend 1, have a bike lock with you. 2, park where it's well lit or there are cameras. And 3, if you see something, call this number. Unless it's an emergency, absolutely call 911. And in simple things like that, we're able to provide a bit more transparency and hopefully begin to mend and even increase the trust between the community and the public safety, which I'm sure all of us will agree is not in its best place right now. So that's kind of how it started. That's where we're going.
So, Anna, do you want to just tell a little bit more in terms of, how you expect this to work? But before you just do that, let me just see if it's sure. And how many of you believe it is important to address crime in your communities? Okay, you people at the back, wake up. I want to see your hands up. Come on, do you agree that it is important to address crime? Yes, no, hands up, hands down? Yes, okay, wake up. That's what I'm trying to do. So what they are actually trying to show is how can we become engaged in the community and support change that is happening through the use of technology. And with that, Anna, just tell a little bit more about how you're going about it.
Absolutely. So one of the inspirations was open data. How many people know what open data means? Hands up. Nobody knows what open data is. All right, so let's start with that. So open data is a movement where we asking all governments, all levels, local, state, federal level, to post or make it accessible, all the information about their operations. So things like 9/11 calls, we would like to see when they're coming in, what's the location, what's the category, what actually happened. We want to see things like list of municipal buildings. We want to see the budgets. We want to see what's the spending for energy bills. How efficient are the buildings? Any kind of information like that. And we want the governments to post it online in machine-readable form. So no PDFs, no images, no presentations, digested things by them. We just want to see raw data. Now, that's great, but the problem is it's actually really good data for people who are innovative and know what to do with it. For average residents, seeing raw data doesn't really mean anything. So the second step for us was to make it more digestible for average resident and make it more useful. So on one side, we're advocating for open data. We're actually working with the police department in Jersey City to publish all of the 9/11 calls online in machine-readable format. And on the second side, we're building an app that would take this data and we want to identify trends in the spikes going up, down, based on history. So, for example, in summer last year, we saw 3 bike thefts. Now we see 10, and send a text message to the residents, alerting them there is an uptick in let's say, bike thefts again. We don't want to send them a message for every 9/11 call that comes in, because that's just going to be information overload, and it's not going to be relevant for them. So we want to make the data relevant for them, and that comes with recommendation as Emmanuel said. What should you do? Should you call this number? Should you like your bike? That kind of information. So why we chose text is actually a very important question, or very important point. A lot of residents in Jersey City have access to internet and have smartphones, but a lot of them don't. Most of the residents have some sort of a phone, but a lot of them don't have smartphones. So we felt text message for the beginning is the best way to reach as many residents as possible.
So, Akisia, give me one story that would highlight what you hope to achieve.
The first thing is this is an awareness project. Sending text messages about what's going on in the community. It's really to create the awareness of what is actually happening so that people are alert. We're also going to be sending recommendations as to what they need to do. Like, oh, you need to lock your bike. And that information would come essentially from the police department. I mean, that's essentially.
But I think the long-term vision is not only receiving information from the police, but also being able to feed back. I mean, no one knows more what's happening in the community than the community itself. So the way that we can empower the community, empower our residents to have a greater impact on what is happening in the city, who is aware of it, and having a direct impact on how we change it. And we think that doing something like this is our way of contributing to that and inviting everyone else to play an active part into that process.
So, any reactions from any of you? Do you think that this would be something useful for your community? Any questions? Did you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
How much does it increase the safety of the community? Can you say a number or some facts about it?
So the question was, how much does it increase the safety of the community?
Yeah, to what extent?
Right. So our understanding, based on the conversations and what we've seen, both with the police and with the community, there are a number of factors which are shaping the perception on one side that things aren't as bad as it seems, and at the same time saying things are way worse than you think they are. We think, being able to set a clear baseline of the reality is where that begins. So for us, we're looking at success for this as, one, people are more aware of what's actually happening. It was really sad to hear when we were talking to the police, and they were saying, a lot of times when we do talk to them in the meetings that they have, they hear things like, well, these numbers can't be right because we saw so many other things, and we called, and we left messages, and we told you guys. And then at the same time, that's not exactly what's happening. I think the way we understood it, there's a perception, or it seems that everyone thinks somebody else is reporting it. And there is no clear sense of who's exactly doing that. So it's not somebody else is doing it, and the other person says somebody else is doing it, and no one does it. And therefore, there is that breakdown. So we feel something like this will become more like that flat line of this is actually what's happening. If you didn't see or you didn't notice that, then there is probably a gap that's missing. Go ahead.
And another point to this is with open data, the residents get to see live the information that's out there. It's not, let's say, the police department or government officials kind of tweaking the information that's out there, the stats, the analytics, whatever you want to call it. It's actually live information. So there's no lying in that.
Say one more thing, small thing. So there's a general trend for, as Emmanuel said, for underreporting, and a lot of it is because you think the neighbor actually reported something, and your neighbor thought you reported something, which is not the case, and that's a very common one. But we also noticed that for smaller crimes, if you call 911, they're going to tell you, no, you have to come to a precinct and file a report. Who's going to come to a precinct and file a report? A lot of people don't. So what we actually are advocating for right now is for smaller crimes like bike thefts, graffitis, things like that. The police department creates an online form so people can actually fill it out online. They don't have to make that walk or ride to the police precinct.
Other comments or thoughts or questions? Yeah, at the back there, please.
Good morning. I am Malang Fati from the Gambia. I think this is a very useful agenda, but I'm not sure if it will be applicable in my community because the electricity system in terms of using computer is very inconsistent, and the illiteracy is also very, very high. It is only the people who are educated who have access to telephones, and this most of the time these are out. So therefore, even if you have to apply this to in my country, it has to be with those people, and most of the times these are people who are always out. So I don't know whether if there are other means apart from using computers and telephones that could be applied to this agenda.
Excellent point. This is why we feel partnerships are crucial. And when I say partnerships with mobile developers in third world countries so that people have access to mobile apps and they can take pictures, they can send text messages. That's the way to really get that information.
I think one other point that, I think this is an excellent question that has been asked, is how do you take similar kinds of information and then maybe translate it down into the use of radio? Because radio is still a very prevalent form of communication, particularly in rural environments, etc. And, hand crank radios are still available. People are able to actually utilize it. UNESCO is actually doing a lot of work in their community centers that are actually using radio as a way for broadcasting. And that's something that, you should look at, is that how some of that can get translated down into some minimum form of communication that helps build a community and create a safety, net around that, using less, not that dependent on the internet.
So I just wanted to quickly ask, follow up to that, which is, how is information normally spread there? I think the context is very important for the success for something like this to work. In a place where issues are on electricity and the access not being like that, is it done through word of mouth? Are there particular people within your community that others look to for information, or however it's spread quickly? And is there a way to leverage that type of network or that type of system to take advantage and make sure that people are aware of what's happening?
I'm thinking. There are two ways to share information in my community. It's either through a radio or a public announce system at a mosque, because most of the people there are Muslims, so if something is happening, they'll just take a mic and somebody is there who is assigned to do that and spread the information. And when it has to do something with the nation, it is normally announced through the radio or television.
And I just want to add to this. So I think you have to think about it as a concept. So on one side, for the police department to be more open and transparent and willing to provide data. So like I know that in I think pretty much all the countries in Africa, each government has open data portal, but they're kind of empty. And probably many reasons. Some of it is just lack of transparency and not willingness to publish data. But in a lot of cases, it may be collection of data. If crime is happening and police comes in, do they actually just fill out a paper report and put it in the filing cabinet? Or do they have tools to put it in a spreadsheet? And even a simple spreadsheet can be uploaded on open data portal. So kind of starting a movement on open data is the first thing, right? And thinking about improving collection of data. On the flip side, now if you have data that's collected, especially electronic data, then you can think about it how to transmit. And we don't have to do text messages. We don't have to put it on the internet. We can use your radio or your public announcements channel. So think about it as a concept. So encouraging police to be more open and more transparent, and thinking about what residents want to know, what types of information they want to know, what kind of recommendations they need. Like if they know there's a certain type of crime, there's an uptick, what should you do? Make them aware, make them proactive.
I think one other thought in all of this is how do you marry the two systems? One is at the official level, set up the data, set up the systems where information is gathered, and then have certain community members who can actually access that, but then spread it out into the overall community using more traditional methods, whether it is going through the religious institutions or through the radio or through community centers where every individual may not have access or the ability to have access to that same information. One last question, if there is any. Yes, sir?
Okay, great. My question is, how has this idea been replicated? I see that you guys are basically the link between the public and this open data. What is the plan to exactly get this started in other urban areas?
It's a great question. We've been fighting about because I think we have strong opinions on that, not only as far as what is replicable, because the perfect example, the context is so important, it just may not work. I think the way we're thinking about it right now is focusing at home. This is our home, Jersey City, that's why we do it. And that would be the direction that we would say to anyone looking at us, don't necessarily focus on what we're doing, focus on understanding what the need is at your home, where you will have the most direct impact, right? It's not about necessarily somebody else coming to show you. You will know better. You will know how to make it relevant. You will know how to make it contextual. You'll know how to make it work. And when I say you, I mean literally you, the youth in this room, and others like you back home. It's not about the police taking the lead on this. It's not about the city officials taking the lead on this. It's simply a matter of you saying, you know what, this is something we feel we have a way to impact, we have a way to make a change, and we're just going to start. And as you do that, you will find, as we've seen support in many ways, then folks come alongside, and then you can begin the discussion of how do we move it beyond our shores, our city, et cetera.
One reason why we're getting support from institutions and companies like Google Ideas to create this product is because Jersey City is very unique in the sense that we have all types of cultures. We have areas of Jersey City where no one has internet access still. They don't have computers. So we're really attacking this from a perspective of talking to everyone, bridging the gaps, and also building that neighborhood association vibe in Jersey City, having people talk to each other, educating people, actually going out and reaching out. So that's how we're really starting with this. Thanks.
Great. Any last thoughts? Any last thoughts?
So I'll say, you see, it's down. So our email address is called ideas@openjc.org. And we wanted you to take a note of that. It's a conversation we're having. We're still learning. I think the way we look at it and the invitation for you to send us your ideas is because you know at home ways that this would work and ways that it wouldn't work that we probably wouldn't even think of, that we would love to try here and let you know what's working for us, why it's working, why it's not working. So email us. You can find us on Twitter. Let's have this dialogue. Let's continue to talk about this so that when we come back in the summer, we're at a different place to say, you know, what's actually worked, what we've seen work, and how we tried it.
Yeah. And then just want to add, I want to add one more thing to it. So as you probably heard from our discussion, it's not that the police came to us and asked us to do it. It's not that the neighborhood associations came to us and asked us to do it. We wanted to do it. And I want to encourage all of you to do the same thing. Think about one issue that you're very passionate about and start a movement in your community.
Well, I saw a lot of hands that went up when Sam asked the question, how many of you are starting your own nonprofit or interested in community-related things, which is actually great to see. And I think what these three individuals have shown, and I think Sam made that point, and I'll probably make that point all the time, is that this takes a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work on the ground to create a system that you believe in that then brings benefits to more than you and into a larger community. But I think the notion of starting in your environment that you know best, figuring out what you want to do there first, and then thinking about who you can partner with in the right context so that the effort that you have developed can scale is something that you should consider next. So with that, thank you very much. Wish you the very best in what you're doing.
Thank you.
And next time when we have this assembly in August, we want to actually see the app. So with that, thank you very much.